Hello everyone and welcome to Module 1, our innovative ISTE modeled digital citizenship lesson plan section, and we are going to be going through all that's required for you to complete this module or this artifact. I'm going to go ahead and start the presentation by clicking down here. It looks like an upside down cake topper for those of you who haven't used PowerPoint before. And here's an overview of our module for this week. We are going to be using the iCare instructional model, which is a pretty generalized information and communication technologies, or ICT, lesson model that is especially helpful for technology-based lessons and overall instruction in non-specific settings. So it's pretty general, and when in doubt, this is something that you can always use, and I'll go into that more. So iCare stands for Introduce, Connect, Apply, Reflect, and Extend. So for our introduction, you see that we're going to do digital citizenship, connecting it to the lesson planning resources that I've shared, that I will share with you, and then also apply it to some theory and concept and models. And then you're also going to reflect, and we're going to look at some open ed or free crowdsourced education and training resources. And then we're going to look at kind of the nuts and bolts of our course and review your discussion board, assignment, and due date requirements. Okay. Here's a little bit more information about the iCare model. This is, it's an 8-page peer-reviewed, scholarly, or what they would say refereed journal article that's very good. It was published in 2008, and that still works because it's a core theory or a core lesson planning model. If it were day-to-day technology integration, I would want a more recent article, but because this is pretty foundational, this is fine. Here is a link to that article right here, and go ahead and click on that, and that will take you out to the link itself. And as you see, it's opening. Okay. I'm just going to do that once. I'm not going to click on all the other links just so you'll see. But you can go ahead and scroll through and save it to your computer. I suggest that you create one folder for all of your EDUC 3313 resources, because I'm going to give you a lot. You're going to get a presentation each week, a video each week, plus all these extra supplemental. Now, this is pretty it's a high level of scholarly writing, although I think you can gain, even if you get 75 to 80% of it, it still will be helpful. I also just want you to see how academic articles, scholarly articles are formatted and some of the vocabulary they use. Notice that it's APA references. APA 6th is what you should use. And the way that they do tables, it's all very, very specific. Each one of the way the bolds, the italics, were done very specifically and with intention per APA requirements. So go ahead and just look through that, and I definitely want you to get used to looking through journal articles. Okay, back to our PowerPoint. Some of the standards, and you always want to go over the standards either whether you're teaching online or face-to-face, just so the students know where your information is grounded while you're doing what you're doing. And everything does need to be mapped to the standards. It doesn't matter what standards your district is going to use or your school organization is going to use. They'll decide that, but whatever one you're teaching to, you definitely want to outline that for both your students and then whoever else may be looking at your lesson plans. So here we're looking at the National Education Technology Standards by ISTE, the International Society of Technology Education, which is the main organization and group of standards we're using for this course, and what I've always used for the past 15 years for teaching with technology. They have standards for students and teachers and coaches and administrators, and so they've done a pretty good job of kind of focusing everybody in on what's important. Okay, so we're looking at Standard 2, specifically design and develop digital age learning experiences and assessments. So you're designing those learning experiences and assessments. And then in task standard, that's your standards for the teacher profession for Oklahoma. You'll see that I've addressed all those in the rubric, so you'll know what areas you're going to be focusing on through each part of the rubric. All right, so our digital citizenship. There are a lot of resources out there. Digital citizenship has become more and more of a focus for education, K-12 education over the past 15, 20 years. I know other countries such as Canada and Australia have done a much better job of requiring digital citizenship throughout K-12 education. The United States is fairly far behind them, and we're slowly catching up. And one of the great organizations that's helping with that is commonsensemedia.org. It's a highly reputable organization, I believe out of Northern California Bay Area. I have several friends that write some of this curriculum for them, and it's been adopted by many school districts who I know are good. So that's what we're going to be using for your digital citizenship here. You can go ahead and click on the link here, and that will take you to a site that looks like this. Here is an overview chart. Notice that going down, you have all of the core components of that curriculum: internet safety, privacy and security, relationships and communication, cyberbullying, all of that. And then it tells you what grade level. So let's just say for 3rd through 5th grade, Unit 1 will cover internet safety for them. Unit 3 as well. Now notice that they also cover all 3 units of privacy and security. Now, of course, as an educator, you can pick and choose what's most important. If you're teaching middle school, you're definitely going to want to be covering cyberbullying and digital drama, and definitely digital footprint and reputation. That's a big deal. And notice that's covered from 6th through 8th grade, the Unit 2, all the way through high school, because those are really important. Relationships and communications are covered all throughout, as well as information literacy. So you definitely want to be looking. And notice that it's separated by grade level here as well, and then units as well. And here's those units spelled out. So go ahead and get yourself familiarized with that. Also notice it's in Spanish if you needed that. And you can also get trained in digital citizenship via Common Sense Media. What you're going to do for this lesson plan is you're going to pick just one of these bullet points. So I think some of you maybe are in high school, so you're going to do, I would just pick, this is just an example, you don't have to choose this, but you could pick information literacy and focus on Unit 2 here. And so you would then go to 9th through 12th grade and then Unit 2 over here. And you can go ahead and utilize their resources, kind of look at the way. Now, of course, your lesson plan is going to look very different than their unit, and you're only doing one small lesson of an entire unit. You're not going to teach the whole unit, of course, but you're going to teach one small lesson of that information literacy for Unit 1, 2, or 3 that you choose. And develop the assessments around there. You can modify the assessments they have to fit Oklahoma or your specific school setting that you're likely to be working in. And you're going to carry that one small lesson through the entire through your entire lesson plan and be very specific about that one lesson. Again, this is a whole unit, which is a unit is a series of lessons. So we're just focusing on one lesson of many possible lessons of a unit. Okay. There's another digital citizenship website that I wanted you to see, probably one of the other core ones. This is geared not so much to K-12 education, but just the public in general. But there are great resources and websites here. So here is digitalliteracy.gov, and it tells you, so why is it important? Why is digital citizenship important in general? And as you explore this Common Sense Media website, you're going to watch those videos, and you're going to really get a clue and a real good sense about why and what digital citizenship is. And then here is a good summary of why it's important and why there's so much focus by these organizations to make sure the curriculum is available. For those of you that teach, your 6th through 8th grade and high school typically have a life skills course, this would be excellent curriculum for that. And then as you have additional time in K through 6, this would be really just great to work in center time. You can supplement your other lessons with this. It would be very helpful. Here's more information. Again, it's community-wide, so there's job training, workforce development, all of that. There's educator tools here. In the community, what does that look like? You may be asked to offer digital citizenship trainings for the community, which I have in the past year, and I'm going to talk more about that. But I would definitely say that this is a great resource. Obviously, there's a major partnership with Microsoft here, and there's some digital literacy courses there as well. Again, geared more toward a community member, not as much K-12, but you'll go to the Common Sense Media for your K-12. All right, and then here is a great search database for educators. You can choose here what skill you want to teach, the topic you're looking for, maybe broadband or basic computing even. So say you have a basic intro to technology computer applications course you're teaching, and you can go here for those lessons already made. You shouldn't have to create anything from start, okay? And then you can also just do a basic keyword search here. Go ahead, and as I'm going through each of these slides, the goal is for you to then go over to these websites and really click around and familiarize yourself. So I'm just giving you the high-level tour. You're going to dig in a lot deeper on your own in these sites on your own after the video. You can click during the video and pause it and then go back and forth too. Speaking of digital citizenship videos, so here is Common Sense Media. Again, you are selecting one digital citizenship concept or strand to base your lesson plan on. And then once you decide what you're going to do, then you're going to watch all those related videos and then base your ISTE Innovative Lesson Plan on that. Okay, so you're just picking one concept or strand, and then you're going to really dive into the content of that to help inform your lesson plan. Okay, and then here's just some other options for you. So oversharing, your digital life, some specific curriculum, copyright and fair use. You would again dive into those. Right, and then here's some other options, teaching email etiquette, super digital citizenship, copyright, all of that, okay? So to really take some time, and I focused several slides on this because I want you to see that there's several different lessons. You're picking just one of these areas. Copyright, email etiquette could be one, digital trail, that sort of thing. Here's also digital citizenship toolkits. So this would be great for your entire school district or just your school. Cyberbullying is definitely important through K-12 education. It's become a really high need area for students to be supported in and for teachers to focus on. So, and then here's an overall digital life. So scroll through those and just again familiarize yourself. So your lesson planning resources, again, we're using ISTE standards. Here are the main standards for students. The basics are technology operations and concepts, digital citizenship, notice that. So you're going to be focusing on standard 2, critical thinking and problem solving, research, information and fluency, communication and collaboration, creativity and innovation. So these will, as you'll notice later, these map onto Bloom's taxonomy and the higher levels of thinking. And so go ahead and click on there and really look through the different standards and familiarizing yourself with those, because you'll be using those throughout your time in my course, as well as hopefully in your teaching career. Here is a sample of an ISTE lesson plan. I just created a basic template. Notice I highlighted that your assessment should include some sort of rubric of how you're going to grade them, unless you're giving a true-false test. If there's any open-ended at all, there would be a rubric attached. And so here's, again, just one sample of a way to complete your ISTE lesson plan. I'm going to give you several other lesson plan samples in Blackboard, and I encourage you to look through all of those. And of course, you're going to create your own, but you're welcome to use all of these samples and resources, both in terms of content and then overall format, to build your best lesson plan possible. We want your best work reflected in your portfolio, and certainly would love to have you with a lesson plan ready to go to teach from during an interview or your first days of school. And there's just the last page of the sample. Differentiation is key. So as I noted here, your assessment is key. I want to see how you're going to grade. How are you going to give those students a grade from an A to an F? How do I know what a B is from a C? And usually the best way to do that is through a rubric. Differentiation, how are you going to meet the needs of different populations in your class? Maybe you have, the first year I started teaching, I was teaching a 5th grade combination class, half 5th and half 6th. My 5th graders, many of them were high need, and they were rating 3 to 4 grade levels below where they should be. And then my 6th graders were high need in the fact that, and had exceptionalities in the fact that they were reading 5 and 6 grades ahead, and they were more the GATE advanced students. And then I had also students with special disabilities, physical abilities that were different. So I had a girl that was in a wheelchair and had issues with writing. And so, how will you accommodate for various learning styles? Maybe you have a student that's really not good with processing auditory information. How will you give them nonverbal information and instruction? Think through those sorts of things. All the different adaptations that you've seen in your classes up to this point, how are you going to accommodate for that? There are assistive technologies that are available for many things. Go ahead and Google that and you'll find those. And then make sure I see some sort of reflection. How are your students going to reflect on their process? Maybe what worked well, what worked differently, or what didn't work well, and then what they'll do differently next time. And that's the same for you. Learning is iterative and reiterative, and so you're going to continue to go through the cycle of learning numerous times. There's also some great resources here on our Oklahoma State Department of Education, and notice that you have education support, instruction, Oklahoma academic standards. I do need to see what academic standards you're going to be addressing, so make sure that you go ahead and click on that and choose a standard that maps onto to your lesson plan. And typically your English language arts will have something about digital citizenship in there, or research and information, that sort of thing. Special education, that could help with your differentiation for sure. And then note you can even look in the assessment and get ideas for how to assess your lesson too. All right, so here are some of the academic standards, and here's the link to that specifically, and you can look through notes. There's ELA, English Language Arts, Math, Social Studies, Science, Fine Arts, World Language, and Health and Safety, etc. So I would look under ELA for the standards for your digital citizenship lesson plan. Earlier, when we were looking at the ISTE lesson plan and the different levels of the standards, I mentioned Bloom's taxonomy. Here is a video for you. I'm not going to click on now, but I want you to pause my presentation and go review that. It's a short video, under 5 minutes. And it's going to basically introduce you to Bloom's taxonomy, which is the different levels of critical thinking and really integrating and applying knowledge. And so the goal for using technology is that you can really use technology to both access and gain information as well as process it, and then as well make meaning and evaluate it and create something new. And so the goal is to create something new based on new information that you found and processed. That's a high-level overview of Bloom's taxonomy, and it's well used throughout all K to 20 education, all educational sectors. Every educator knows about Bloom's taxonomy. So here's a fun little video that will created by Powtoon, which is fun too, which will walk you through the overview of that. Okay, and it has been revised in recent years. There's another technology integration model called SAMR, which stands for substitution, augmentation, modification, and redefinition. So you'll see that on this outer white ring here. And then what you have are, and then in the center with this white circle, gray circle, you have graduate attributes and capability. What are you looking for your students to leave your course or your school or your grade level? What kind of attributes or capabilities do you want them to have? Here's some in the center. And then going out, so you'll notice that with the substitution, it starts over here and kind of bridges over, so it's kind of green and red. Augmentation is red and kind of this yellowy orange. Modification. And so what you would do is based on what you're looking for. So say you want with the Bloom's taxonomy, you want the students to be creating. You're beyond the remembering and understanding of a concept. You now want them to create. And you're going to have them design. So here's that keyword here. They're going to design an iBook or an e-publication. Okay, or a cartoon using Powtoon. So with that EPUB or book, you would then go, okay, well, to create an EPUB or book, I could do any one of these, probably easy release, WordPress, a Prezi to start, Creative Book Builder would work. And again, you can familiarize yourself. Go ahead and visit these different resources. If you have space on your smartphone, go ahead and download them. They're good resources. And so these are the different iPad or iPhone apps that will help you. So if you want to apply, Evernote is a great tool. And I'm not going to require that you create accounts or download all of these apps, but I highly recommend you certainly do. Explain Everything is a good one that I've used. Animation Creation is good. So really any of them on here, and you just have to find what works for you. Notability, okay? And go ahead and download a few of those. But that's how you use this chart is say you want them to evaluate, and then your objective verb, when you're writing your objective, by the end of the lesson, the students will rank, and that includes judgment. So they're going to be judging other, let's see, other WikiNotes pages, and then eventually they're going to create their own, okay? So here is what you want them to do. They're going to evaluate by doing this, and as a result of this activity and using this tool. That's how you use this chart. Okay. Here's also a good chart. Bloom's taxonomy is so foundational to all education and lesson planning that I am spending a little bit of time on this. But here are your different levels of Bloom. Remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and create. And that gives you some definitions of what those are. And then down here is the different types of levels of knowledge. So the knowledge dimension, you have factual knowledge, conceptual knowledge, procedural knowledge, and metacognitive knowledge. So this is a pretty significant chart, and it may take you a while to work through it, but I want you to have it for your future resources. And even if you aren't using it a lot right away, it certainly will help you with your lesson plan. So by the end of if you're writing objectives, by the end of the lesson, that's usually how you write objectives, the students will create a novel by producing a storyboard that leads to a story. And so what are they going to do to do the factual part? They're going to gather factual knowledge, what goes into a storyboard, what goes into writing a story. They're going to look at some of the theories and models behind storyboarding, maybe for a book or for an animation or for a movie. Procedural, so what are they going to actually have to do to create that book, steps 1 through 5. And then overall kind of self-knowledge. So what is the overall story they're trying to communicate via that storyboard? Okay, so it's more of the high-level abstract knowledge of what's the overall goal. Okay, hopefully that helps. Again, I know this is a fairly high level, and you're going to hopefully be seeing this over and over, but at least you get to start with it with me. Back to Bloom's and Sammer. You saw this a little bit in the wheel that was up earlier. Again, your redefinition is more of your creating and evaluating. Modification is through analyzing and applying, and then understanding and remembering. This is Kathy Schrock. She has a lot of really great, you'll see down here, she has a lot of really great practical technology integration with the classroom, resources and tools and all sorts of things. She's really been helpful to a lot of teachers about technology integration. Here's a brief video again about Sammer, and so go ahead and watch this video. I thought it was just a very succinct, good way to introduce you to Sammer via a video. Again, you'll pause my presentation here, go watch that, and then you can come back. This is Kathy Schrock again in terms of Sammer. Say you want the students to be note-taking. Here's some very practical students. If you want them to do the R part redefinition, teachers will have access to the student notes like through Google Drive, Google Docs, which we'll talk about. Maybe with research, we want to do a collaborative mind map where all students are researching and contributing something to the collaborative mind map. File sharing through iTunes U. So these are just lots of options. What I definitely recommend is that, again, you visit these tools, Explain Everything, iMovie, Shobi, Notability, Mind Maps. And if you haven't seen them before, go ahead and get a basic familiarity with them. These are all practical technology integration tools that you can incorporate into your ISTE lesson plan. Now, I don't pick even 5 of them. Pick maybe 1 or pick maybe 2, like a collaborative mind map or an Explain Everything presentation. Visit all of them or as many as you have time for, Google Docs, and then pick 1 that you're going to focus on, or 2 maybe, in your lesson plan. As an overview of our TPACK model, here is a brief video introduction to that. You're going to likely be hearing that throughout your hopefully throughout your time at Southeastern, but certainly if you're teaching in a school or district that has technology. And it's an overview of high-level technology integration focused on the technology tools, the pedagogy, and then the overall content. So go ahead and watch this video and then come back to the presentation. Here is what you're going to see in that video, which is you're really looking here. This is kind of our important area right here. And that's where each one of these three intersect. So you have your technology knowledge, which is what we just saw with the SAMR, and I told you about Knowability or Explain Everything. Those technology-based tools, iTunes U, you have various iPad apps or iPhone apps or web-based resources. So that's your technology. It's the technology for the sake of technology. Anything digital. And then you have your content knowledge. That is your standards, your academic standards, like from the state of Oklahoma. They want you to teach reading, writing, arithmetic, history, world languages, health, all of those. That is your content. These are your academic standard content areas provided typically via your district through curriculum, okay? And there's the district adopted curriculum. And then you have your pedagogical knowledge, which I've been covering in this lesson plan or in this presentation about your lesson plan. And that's, okay, how do you teach? You know, anybody can access content and anybody can have access to technology. It takes a teacher, a trained teacher, which is why you're investing your time and resources with us in the education department at Southeastern. It takes a teacher to know, okay, how do I teach that content with the technology in the best way possible so that the brain receives it, processes it, and stores it in the long-term memory and is able to recall it when necessary. So that is pedagogy. That's kind of that brain science. How do people really, really learn? And that's what sets you apart as an educator from everybody else. Again, anybody can access content, for the mostly everybody, and mostly everybody can use a technology tool at whatever level. But here's what makes you an educator, is having that pedagogical knowledge. And for our purposes in this course, the pedagogical knowledge is your TPAC, which is this Teacher Pedagogical Content Knowledge Framework, which is what you're seeing here, a model. And then the SAMR, Substitution, Augmentation, Modification, and Redefinition, which you saw earlier. Bloom's Taxonomy is pedagogical knowledge. All right, and I'm covering that because that is just as important as the tech you're using and the standard you're teaching, okay? This is how you teach, this is what you teach, and this is the way in which you teach it. These are the tool only. This is only the tool, okay? There's also a 21st century learning framework or resources I want you to know about. This has been pretty core for K-12 education throughout the U.S., and I think it's pretty solid, and I think it's especially needed in Oklahoma because we have a really important workforce development initiative. So our students may not go to a university, and some of them, many of them, may go into the workforce immediately with some sort of extra training or ongoing education. So this is the very basic 21st century learning skills that students need to have by the time they graduate. And you'll notice here that there's kind of a twofold again. You have life and career skills, you have innovative learning skills, the 4 C's. That's important: critical thinking, communication, collaboration, and creativity. Sounds very similar to Bloom's taxonomy. Information and media skills and technology skills, and then the key subjects, which is your content, which we just talked about. So if we were to map this on to TPAC, your life and career skills and would be your content, and for that would be the C for the TPAC. Your innovative learning skills would be more of your technology based, and could feed over, because there's that intersection, could also feed over into content as well. And then here is definitely your technology ones, and then your key subjects would then be your content. This learning and innovation skills could also be your pedagogical skills if we are mapping that onto that other chart. Now notice you have standards and assessments, curriculum instruction, professional development, and learning environments. And this is typically mostly within the pedagogical and the content areas, this sector down here. So go ahead and visit p21.org. It's a great resource for you and certainly will help inform your teaching. Okay. Also wanted you to be prepared with lessons to go. When I first started teaching and I was assigned a class, I was instructed to teach classes that I didn't necessarily have curriculum for, and that happens. And so, or that I didn't have curriculum that I felt was rigorous enough or helpful enough to the students and for their future tests or just their important areas of life. So here are some great open education or free resources for you. TED Ed, I was actually chosen to be part of their TED Ed Brain Trust years ago. And here are some of their content areas. Notice that you can filter by content, student level, video duration, subtitles. So if you need a quick video to get a lesson started or to teach a concept you're not familiar with, TED Ed is really a great resource. I highly recommend it. You can create a lesson, and so go ahead and familiarize yourself with that. Another great open education resource is Khan Academy. I'm sure you've heard of that a lot. Really, you can learn anything for free for everyone forever, and they mean it. It's a free account, and I definitely recommend you create an account. I heard the founder, Salman Khan, speak at a Q conference in Palm Springs about 2 years ago. And it just kind of started as him trying to help his niece, and then it ballooned, and then people really liked it, and then the Gates Foundation funded him. So you have all the subjects you want. Students can create accounts, teachers and parents. Highly recommend it. We also have some open education resources, and this kind of gives you a little bit of the theory behind them. So go ahead and watch the video. All of these resources I'm giving you, especially with TED Ed or Khan, you can use those as part of your ISTE lesson plan as content resources. So this would be information to this the TPAC. This would be your content. You're giving students information. Or you could instruct them to go find a lesson on their own using these filters if you were going to teach a student how to use an online database. But you can definitely use these as part of your ISTE lesson plan. With the TPAC, and I'll just go back there, you're going to be telling me in your lesson plan what technology you're going to use, what content you're going to use, and then you're teaching your pedagogical knowledge, which are your assessments, your objectives, that sort of thing. Okay, so right now this is just content now for your lesson plan. Here's more potential content for your lesson plan. OER Commons, you can do a search, you can filter by subject, grade level, standard. It is mapped to the Common Core. Now Oklahoma does not use Common Core, and neither does Texas, but many other states do, and so you're welcome to look at those, and maybe you can just map them over to Oklahoma standards if you want, or you can do an advanced search. You can register for a free account, and there's a lot of great lesson plans and curriculum here that's been vetted so that it's reliable, and you can definitely use those as content for your lesson plan. All right. More open ed resources. I wanted you to see lots of information here. Now again, remember you're focusing on digital citizenship. So you would be, for your lesson plan, you would be looking for digital citizenship and any additional resources that you didn't find beyond your commonsensemedia.org. Okay. I'm basically in this presentation giving you a toolkit of technology-based lesson plans for your, this could supply all your technology curriculum needs for your entire first year and beyond of your technology class. So while this is meant to inform your lesson plan, it's also to give you a toolkit to start the teaching profession with. Okay. Here's some training if you want more about OERs. I mentioned earlier about Google Drive and Google products. There is a Google certification. There are Google certifications, I should say, that are available that are free. And here is the website for that. I highly recommend you do that. I'm not going to require that as part of this course. I think for my master's program that I'm redesigning right now, I will require it. And for another course I'm teaching in the Native Institute, I do require it. But I highly recommend it as it will give you a solid foundation in overall cloud computing, teaching online, doing Google Hangouts and synchronous learning and that sort of thing. So go ahead and look at that and consider. Notice there's different levels of training, but definitely consider going through these 13 units. And if you were pretty solid, it could take you a couple of weeks, and then it's like $20, $25 for the test. In terms of the nuts and bolts for our class, your discussion board prompts have been posted, and here they are. Remember that I don't need a full paper on each one of these questions, but I do need a 2 to 4 sentence summary per question, and that's going to be due Wednesday by 11:59, and then you're going to respond to 2 other students by Saturday at 11:59. So here are questions for this week. How are 3 to 4 examples, or what are 3 to 4 examples of ways you will use Bloom's taxonomy, SAMR, and TPACK in your various lesson planning processes? And then you can read the rest of them. Please just go ahead and respond to those in the discussion board. And here's how your discussion boards will be graded. This is directly taken from your syllabus, so it's pretty clear. You have an additional response, or you have an initial response, 2 additional. I'm seeing some critical thinking there. I'm seeing that you made connections to real world, your other classes, and then it's legible, so I can read it. And again, this is what your grades will look like. This is how I post your grades. Here's the rubric for your lesson plan. So you're going to introduce, connect, that should look familiar, apply, reflect, some writing mechanics and some extensions there. Basically, if you get, everything's worth 25 points. All assignments are worth 25 points with me. And if you get 22 to 25, you're going to get a 3, which is the target. And each one of these components are going to what's going into your chalk and wire portfolio. So basically, did you cover at a target level? It's exemplary, it's complete, it's accurate, it's competent. Did you cover these areas? And if it's at a 3, I'll put a 3 here, and maybe a 2 here, or whatever, so on and so forth. Here's the standard number 2 by ISTE, and then here are your in-task standards that are covered by each component. And hopefully you've seen the in-task standards. If not, you can Google them. They are also included in your program handbook. In terms of due dates, again, you have completed Module 1. We're on Module 2, which is your innovative lesson plan. It's going to be due next Saturday at 11:59. And then we'll move directly into Module 2. Okay, there's my contact information. You all have been doing a good job so far communicating your questions and concerns. Please continue to put those in that helpful discussion board. I generally will respond in 24 hours. You are more than welcome to respond to each other. And I generally check that discussion board once and twice a day, maybe usually in the mornings and then the evenings. So I look forward to hearing from you, and congratulations on being off to a good start. All of you are participating very well so far, and this is going to be a very quick 8-week session, and we've got 7 weeks left to go. So thank you very much.